In this video, we're going to talk about the changes to the panels and spacing Docker. All of the changes have been made in the standard panel section. We haven't touched spacing for this one. What we've added is the ability to go inside instead of outside when you create your panels. So if I were to take an object like this, and I'll just copy it so that we've got two. By default, the way that the panels Docker works is if we hit apply, it's going to build from that inside rectangle and go outward. You now have the option to choose to inside, and it will build inward instead of outward. That way, if you wanted an exact width for your panel, you could go ahead and do that. If we wanted to say that this was a 12-inch by 6-inch panel, we could size it first and then build inward or to the inside, and it would maintain the panel size at 12 by 6. So that's the first new thing. The next is what's called an offset. So if I were to create a die, for instance, I'll get rid of these existing panels. If I click on this and choose an offset, I'm going to go negative so that it goes to the inside of my die. And I want to make sure that recreate panel is not checked for this to work. And when I click apply, what it does is it will do a 2-inch offset and then start the panel from there and go inward. If we unchecked to inside and deleted this, when we apply it, it will go 2 inches in and then build to the outside. But then we're not sure exactly how much of a border we've got there without doing the math. So instead what we'll do is we'll click to the inside, run panels, and if we check then how big this is from here to there, it'll be exactly 2 inches. So that's new. The next thing is panel spacing. Having it set to auto will work the way that it's always worked in the past, where it goes off of the text spacing. Panel spacing is when you type in a name and dates. Let's say we've got 3 different lines here. When you take those 3 different lines of text and hit apply, I'm going to now back up just a little bit. We're going to uncheck to inside because we don't want that to happen, and we want to put a 0 back in offset. Now if I go back to this, when I hit apply, the way that it has always built the panels in the past is it would take the longest line of text, which happens to be my name here, and then it will find the tallest line of text, which is also my name, and it will decide, and it will do the spacing on the left and right dependent on how tall this letter is. So it's 1 3/8, so it's going to give me an 1 3/8 spacing that way. And then my top and bottom spacing is this number text spacing, so it's giving me 1/2 inch spacing between each line of text and 1/2 an inch top and bottom there between the panel. Now we can set panel spacing different. If we want to add more spacing between the top of your text and the bottom of your text, but maintain the text spacing number, we can grab that and hit apply, and that's simply going to give us more space, top and bottom, but everything else will be the way that it was before. The next thing is what's called end spacing. If we don't want it to go off of that 1 3/8 for our end spacing, we can set it to whatever we want. So if we want 1 inch spacing, then we can do that, and it's now going to give us an inch of space on either end of our text. Most people won't like to have this because when you have a family name, and your name is 3 inches, for instance, by doing it the old way, where it was set automatically, and if you just type in auto, it will go back to the old way. When you hit apply, it'll give us 3-inch spacing on either side, which some people think is a bit too much space there. So if I instead change this to 1-inch spacing and reapply, then it's only going to give me 1 inch on either end of that. The last thing that's been added is instead of end spacing, if you click this F button here, that will switch to fixed width as opposed to end spacing. So if you want to, you can tell it to have an exact measurement. This text is 13 inches, so we don't want to go any smaller than 13, so 12 wouldn't be good. But if we went to 20, for instance, and hit apply, it's going to build a 20-inch panel. Again, it's going to start from here and go outward because of the 2 inside not being checked. So if I really wanted it to be 20 inches, then all I would do is I would click 2 inside instead and maybe add more panel spacing. And then when I hit apply, it'll make sure that that's 20 inches left to right. The last thing is just being able to save all of those as your defaults. So if there is a particular panel style that you like the most, or as far as panel spacing and fixed width, you can click on the save button and it will save those settings. My defaults, I do like auto. I'm going to maintain the old way of doing things, and I'll go to the outside just to keep it the way that it used to be. So I'll resave that. But if you want different settings, you're welcome to change those. The final thing that's been changed is that there was a bug before where if your text was slightly off center, if it was slightly off the 0 axis, then it would throw an error, but that we believe has been all worked out. So hopefully everything works well for you. If not, then just let us know and we'll see what we can do about making it better.